Welcome back again today, guys. We're going to say it again. Welcome back again today, guys, because we're going to talk about another African empire, Black empire. More history for our people. Let's jump right into it. One of the most significant and influential empires, the Empire of Ghana. The Empire of Ghana formed somewhere around the 300s, and it was located in West Africa around current-day countries known as Mali and Mauritania. Now, the Empire of Ghana was actually called Wagadu by its citizens, but the kings were actually called Ghana instead, and with the Arab travelers and scholars thinking that the empire was named Ghana, this is how it's come to be known as the Empire of Ghana today. But originally the people that inhabited the Ghana Empire called the Empire Wagadu. Now, the Empire of Ghana was populated by Mandi-speaking peoples who traded salt with northern Berber tribes and Arabs as well as ivory, iron, and gold to the south with other African ethnic groups. We must note that the Empire of Ghana is not modern-day republic or the modern-day Republic of Ghana, which is located some more so southeast of where the kingdom formed at. Iron was a big way that the Ghana Empire was formed. Iron and the technique of like using iron and smelting it and things of that nature put the Mandi-speaking people that created the Ghana Empire above other ethnic groups, African ethnic groups, because of the development of iron and also the domestication of camels. Domesticating camels gave the Ghana Empire, in the beginning, when the Ghana Empire formed, the peoples of the Ghana Empire gave them the power of travel through the desert to trade in northern Africa all the way to the Middle East and other parts of hot, arid, deserty atmospheres. And the army of the Ghana Empire was huge. It was, accounts of Arab scholars have said that it was over 200,000 soldiers, and at any time there could be 40 or 50,000 of those soldiers called, and they were called as archers. They were just archers. So that was crazy. I mean, it's amazing, a big, huge amount of soldiers and just richness in this kingdom. Now, some of the earliest accounts of the empire were from the Arab historians and travelers in the 8th century. And by the time the Wagadu, or the Empire of Ghana, had become powerful and rich and beyond most people's belief, the king would collect tribute from lesser groups and would enforce obedience from time to time as well. And the empire at its peak bartered gold and ivory, and this was for salt, swords, cloth, horses, books, and as well as other knowledge from northern Africa and Europe. Now, the king, also known as the Ghana, served as commander-in-chief of the empire's highly strong and organized army, as we spoke of, and was the head of justice and all trade activity in the empire as well. And mayors, civil servants, counselors, and ministers were appointed by the king to assist with administrative duties, but at all times the king was in charge. Now, the king would allow people to publicly voice their complaints, and the beating of the drums would signify that the court would be in session soon, or as currently is in session. Anything from violated rights to neighbor conflicts, the king would listen to and give judgment on. Most hearings were peaceful, but if it involved criminal activities such as bloodshed or denial of debt, a test was given to the accused person. Now, this is how the test went about going along. A foul concoction was given to the accused person to drink, and if the person throws up, he or she was declared innocent. But if they did not vomit, the person was considered guilty and suffered the king's punishment. Now, the kings of the Ghana Empire also imposed export-import taxes on the production of gold of its own citizens as well as foreigners, which was the most valuable commodity that Ghana had. And like I said, traders from abroad would get taxed for bringing things in and also taking things out and trading. So around the 11th century, the king of Ghana Empire would invite North African traders from the Sahara Desert to the capital of the Ghana Empire. And the capital changed many times throughout the empire's existence, and most of the traders were of the Islamic faith after contact with Arabs in North Africa. Now, this invitation to the capital of the empire was an economical move by the king, and the king wanted to control over all the natural resources and especially the gold. He wanted to control over all the gold, in which led to the Berber peoples creating the trans-Saharan caravan road in which salt and gold was traded back and forth between the Ghana Kingdom Empire and the Arabs and the Berber tribes in North Africa. Now, the land's abundant resources allowed the empire to engage in prosperous trade, as well as strategic governing and great location. And this all played into the emergence of a rapid, wealthy nation, which was known as the Empire of Ghana. Now, salt was also worth its weight in gold. It was worth its weight in gold. And gold was so easy to come by in the kingdom that the empire reached much wealth with trading with Berbers and also Arabs as well. And Arabs would travel north of 2 months through the desert to reach Ghana to do business with them. The Arabs were taxed for what they took out, as I just stated before, and what they brought in, the trade between the Ghana Empire and the Arabs. So what they took out and what they brought in were both taxed by the Ghana Empire. Now, the Arabs were taxed for what they took out and what they brought in. And the trading with the Berber peoples and the Arab travelers usually happened at the southern limits of the Ghana Empire. Now, these trades were usually done using a system called mute bartering. Mute bartering, I know you're thinking about like mute, but you're right. If you're thinking mute or quiet, you're exactly right. Mute bartering, also known as silent trade, is a way in which two parties trade items or goods. And this is how it went about. So the Ghana Empire traders would go to an area and they would place the gold down, and after that they placed the gold down, they would basically move away backwards from the area that they came. So they would come, place the gold, this is the gold, they would move away from the area a certain distance, and then they would either play a drum or use some other type of signal to the Berbers or Arabs to come in. And once that happened, the Berbers would approach the gold, and if they thought that the amount of gold was equal to the amount of salt that they had, or they thought it was equal trade, they would take the gold and leave the salt. But if they didn't think it was an equal trade, then they would retreat back from the original position and signal that more or less needs to be laid down. So, let's go over it again. The Ghana Empire, they would come in, the traders, they would sit the gold down, and then they would retreat and go back for a distance. They would play a drum or maybe shoot something into the air, whatever it might be, to signal to the Arabs or Berbers. And then they would come in, and if they liked the amount of gold, if the amount of gold was equal to the amount of salt that they were going to give, they would take the gold and leave the salt. But if it wasn't, they would retreat back, and then they would have a signal, just like the Ghana Empire traders, that there needs to be more or less gold laid down. And that's mute bartering or silent trade, whichever way you want to call it. That's what that is. So this process would take place because some kingdoms or people did not speak the same languages. And we must note that the salt was just as important as gold. Salt was just as important as gold, still is today. And this is due to the process of preserving food and also making food taste better. If you don't have salt, there's not too many other ways you can preserve food for a very long time, especially out in the desert. So as the Ghana Empire grew richer, its strength as well as its political control grew very, very big. And the empire absorbed many nearby states. The empire also incorporated the Saharan cities to the north of it and lands producing gold to the south of it. Now, the Ghana Empire was obsessed with wealth. They loved wealth, and they would apply gold to their dogs. Yes, their dogs, the hair, weapons, and anything else that they could put it on. I mean, they were extremely wealthy in gold. I mean, extremely wealthy. And an Arab traveler named Ibn Hakel said that the kings of Ghana were so rich that at the time they had to be the richest and wealthiest men in the world. Now, the empire was so rich between the 800s and 1100s that the dogs were gold collars, and the horses wore silk robe halters and slept on plush carpets as well. This is really a, expensive kingdom if you got your animals sleeping on certain things like that, right? And there is no question why foreigners saw Ghana kings as the richest men in the world, seeing these kind of sights. The Ghana kings were very welcoming of the Arabs as well. They would also let them practice their religion and build their mosque, but they were smart, and they were very smart. They would tax the Arab travelers and tax them with hefty taxations. Like I said before, when you come in, you tax. When you go out, now at the height of the empire, it was very, 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 very rich. I mean, I want you to understand, it was very rich, but that goes, with the territory of having gold deposits and iron, more so based on the gold, but other natural resources like iron, the position that the Ghana Empire was, in close to the ocean, surrounded by forest in certain areas to the south, surrounded by desert in the north. So there was really best of all worlds. And even from a tactician standpoint, they had a very, very good position as a kingdom. So we have to understand, though, what goes up must come down. And in the 11th century, the empire started to decline. States within Ghana started to want control over all the gold trade, and jealousy and fear were just some of the reasons that the empire fell, as well as the influctuation of the Islam religion and changing people's mind state with the religion coming through, and like the different kind of morals and just how life went along. Those all played into the part of why the Ghana Empire fell. And the empire had their own religion and beliefs, like I stated, but the trade, which was their biggest profit of trade in gold and taxation, came to sort of bite them in the behind at one point, just like all kingdoms or all countries do at some point. So this would help the downfall of the empire. A Muslim group launched an invasion in the mid 11th century, which devastated the capital of the empire as well. Now, after the Muslim group that sort of toppled the capital in the mid 11th century, Ghana soon regained power. But while the Muslim group was in power, they made the citizens pay them in the same tax that the empire had imposed on other people. So though the empire was not safe, just yet, they did reclaim the empire for a split second, but the empire was not safe for good. And soon, in about 200 years later from that date, the empire of Ghana was not so lucky. Weakened by attacks and religion and cut off from international trade, the kingdom fell. And in the 1240s, a state within the Ghana Empire, which this is going to sort of like, I guess, put the puzzle together. But for a lot of you guys, you're going to be amazed by this. Like I said, in the 1240s, a state within the Ghana Empire rose to power. And this state was the Great Mali Empire, which makes sense. Mansa Musa and all the Musas before that and the kings before that, and they rose to kingdom power and to great legendary empire, empire power from coming from the Empire of Ghana first and rising out as a state. So Mali Empire would become the next great empire after the Ghana Empire. And today we learned about another empire. The Ghana Empire was really, really rich in natural resources, and it was a very rich kingdom. It had philosophers. It had a strong army. It had a very, very intelligent, sense on trade and understanding the value of certain things. So today we learned about another kingdom. I hope you guys had fun on this ride of the Ghana Empire, and we're going back in time and decoding our history and teaching our history. And as always, if you could like, subscribe, and the Patreon account, as always, if you would like to help me out, then definitely visit those things. So as always, to all my people around the world, I'm out. Peace.
What's up? What's up?
Hey.
Shalom.
What up?
Hi.